Callum Richardson, your question, please.
Is a second independence referendum inevitable if Britain votes to leave the EU?
Will Scotland have a second referendum vote if Britain as a whole votes to leave the EU?
I think people are sick and tired of the SNP holding the entire country hostage and saying that whenever there is a policy that the Union as a whole wishes to follow, they will hold a referendum and leave. Now think about it. Let's say that actually happened. Let's say that Britain votes to leave the EU and Scotland then votes to go into it. What would happen on the basis of the finances that the SNP has left Scotland with? You'd have austerity forced upon you by the European Central Bank. So it's not even something you would want if you got it.
All right. Let me hear from some members. Hold on. Hear from some members. I'll come to you. Yeah, the woman there, in the, just two in the fourth row. Yes, you.
I thought we voted to stay in the UK in 2014. What's changed?
And what, in your view, has changed? Nothing?
Yeah, nothing.
So what
55.3% of the Scottish population voted no.
So if the UK as a whole voted Brexit, what would you think then?
I think it would give the SNP an opportunity and an excuse to hold another referendum.
And would you still vote no?
Yes.
Even if it meant not being in the year, OK?
Yeah. And by the way, Scottish Eurosceptics do exist. Scottish Eurosceptics do exist.
You've said that
One
already.
recent poll showed that 36% of Scottish people want to leave the EU. The SNP needs to stop characterising all Scots as being SNP.
Jenny, the man there on the gangway.
I doubt that in the event of Brexit, that given the scale of the public finances in Scotland, the gaping big hole that we have, that basically prove the white paper, Mo Better and Bogrel, that the actual the Scottish people will vote to leave the United Kingdom.
Any other Brexit? Yes, the person in the second row from the back there.
I think it's ridiculous to suggest that we should vote to rejoin an organisation if we do stay part of it, which costs us billions of pounds every year, which means that Scottish farms and Scottish fisheries are run by Brussels, which means that we don't have control over our own borders and we can choose who comes here, and which means that we have austerity forced on us by the European Union, as we've seen with Greece, as we've seen with Ireland. I have no idea why people would campaign to rejoin or stay part of an organisation which forces Scotland into these situations.
So do you think Nicola Sturgeon and indeed John Swinney's view that, well, in Nicola Sturgeon's word, almost certainly there'd be a second independence referendum if the vote was Brexit. You think that's a policy that won't have traction here in Scotland? People object to it, or do you think it'll be something you go through and maybe Scotland votes independent?
I think people would object to it on grounds that why would we want to leave the United Kingdom and the cost that would come with that to rejoin an organisation which would cost us even more money and which we would then give away the control that we've just took back from you.
Yeah.
First point to Jenny Mara, you said that you're pushing again for the SNP to put in their manifesto that they would have another referendum.
No.
The clue is in the name, the Scottish National Party. Their aim has never changed. It's like saying the Green Party, would, if they lost an election, would cease to be a Green Party. Yes. They are always for independence. Get used to it. The second point is Ruth Davidson. David Cameron clearly came up to Scotland and the whole Project Fear team and told the people of Scotland, if you vote no, you will be guaranteed to stay in the EU. If you vote yes, Scotland will be out the EU. That was a definite, repeated threat to the Scottish people. The third point,
when you say that, you can't go all around the panel because you'll be here all night. No, hold on a second. Hold on. Did you or did you not know there was going to be a referendum on whether Britain as a whole should stay in the EU?
Promised in 2013.
Yes, but the conflict between that was David Cameron and Project Fear coming to Scotland.
But these are two different things, aren't they?
One is to say you have to vote no to stay in the EU.
One is to say if you leave the UK, you're on your own. You'll have to make your own decisions versus the EU and membership. Yes. The other is stay, but there is going to be a referendum. But you say in the middle there, shaking your head again. Let's hear from you.
Davidson made my point that we knew there would be an out EU referendum if the Tories won the 2015 general election. So we voted no, for better or worse. And John Swinney is effectively saying we were too stupid to understand that point, and he holds all the no voters in complete contempt.
Okay, but if we can find you, John Gordon.
Aye. Is the in-out vote on Europe not important enough to listen to what the Queen thinks about it?
Ah, should the... Well, yeah, yes. Do you think it is?
Well, I think she does more for the country than half of the people elected in Westminster.
Okay. You sit up there.
Yeah, I'd just like to take the panel up on the idea that the Queen is supposedly outside of politics when, as you've just been discussing, she was apparently having some kind of tirade in a Privy Council meeting over lunch, and quite possibly that may have been what maybe influenced Michael Gove.
Oh, he was
She's a
persuaded
masterful
by the
politician,
Queen,
and with the calibre of some of our actual elected politicians, it's quite possible she's exerting much more of an influence than she should.
So she managed to win over Michael Gove.
You can
but
picture the scene,
not Nick
can't you?
Clegg,
You can
apparently.
imagine it. You can imagine it.
Right. Please, a question from Cathy, please. Yes.
Yes. Scottish Government figures yesterday revealed a £15 billion deficit. Is the economic case for independence now dead?
All right, this goes to the heart of the whole business, I think, please. Into that kind of detail, you sit up there.
Well, I don't think the employment figures are true of what you're saying, because when you take the people that have been sanctioned, and it's in Britain, but particularly in Scotland, they've just wiped those people off the books. So therefore, there's not more jobs being created. You see the people that's unemployed around Dundee, like the lady's saying, and the people that's on the streets in Dundee, and the homeless and all. They're not employed. So where are you getting these jobs from that your figures are dreaming up? They're not real jobs.
Okay.
They're off the books.
Willie Rennie. The man over there, I'll come to Tim, the man there, and then I'll come to you up there, yes.
Yeah, I think it's
ridiculous
ridiculous to say that, you know, because of this black hole that Scotland can't be independent, because the UK's like, what, £1.3 trillion in debt. I think it's just ridiculous. And, you know, for David Cameron and George Osborne to keep saying, oh, it's the last Labour government's fault. I mean, if I had a pound for every time they'd said that, I could probably pay for this black hole myself.
Okay. And the woman there, you. Yes, you. And then I'll come to you.
I believe that Scotland needs to be led without any more insecurity of referendums, money being wasted on referendums, because if we were to invest that money in making Scotland great, less people would want to leave Scotland rather than just Scotland leaving the UK or Europe.
All right, and you.
I despair listening to this panel. Every single one of you, what is the vision for the UK in terms of taking forward finances? We've got today 1,500 jobs in Glasgow City Council, jobs going in the NHS, jobs going in local authorities. Everybody's sitting arguing amongst themselves. What is your vision for the future to improve things? Don't sit and argue.
Okay.
Right, I've just relocated from the Lake District. The reason I've done this...
To Dundee.
To Dundee.
Yes.
The reason I have done this as an Englishman of some Irish ancestry way back is because I can see things happening in Scotland that thrill me, that excite me, that makes me feel that this is a country going somewhere. And when you talk about, I know you're a member of sort of probably a Tory sympathiser, when you talk about the union helping people, living in the Lake District, I felt like a colony of the southeast of England. It seemed to be run for the city. It was not run for the benefit of England in its regions. It's run for the southeast.
Yes, but the southeast of England...
No, please, let me finish.
The southeast of England feels like a colony of the southeast of England. We hate that as much, but what you're making an argument for is for voting for socialism, not for voting for independence.
The point is that Scotland uniquely has the chance to go forward on a smaller, flexible, dynamic basis. And I was delighted to get the chance to move here. And it's becoming a bit like Canada is to the potential of being under Trump in the United States. People who can are moving.
And then I'll move on. The man there, in not you, but the man behind you in the white shirt. Yeah.
Aren't we, when we're talking about financials and the money, etc., one of the things I do find unusual is that you're talking about lies, damn lie statistics, and then, frankly, figures put out by political parties. Isn't it time that we had like they've got in England, an OBR, a Scottish OBR, so actually we can get some genuine figures and we can make an informed decision?
And I just come back to the questioner. You've heard all this. What do you make of it? Your question was whether the economic case for independence was now dead.
Well, as we say in Scotland, the economic case for independence was hung on the shrigley peg. And now it's fallen to the floor, and I'm horrified that the SNP want to try and rehang that case on the very same peg. And those of us who predicted exactly the situation were constantly told we were talking Scotland down, that we were scaremongering. And I actually think that all of us are owed an apology.
So I'll take this question from Laura Meach, please. Laura Meach.
With the majority of the NHS trusts in Scotland in financial difficulties, would the panel increase taxes to safeguard the future of the NHS in Scotland?
It's all very well banding about statistics and
Yes.
plans. We want long-term reassurances that we're not going to be threatened with a privatised health service in danger of TTIP and things like that in the future. So can we stop arguing
You said that you wanted to speak in the blue, yes. Just here. Yes.
Five minutes ago, I heard a really interesting provocation from Tim Stanley about taking a strategic view of the NHS. And I then listened to our same old politicians bickering about who's spending more money, who's putting more nurses out, and the inevitable obligatory pat on the head to aren't the nurses wonderful, which any of them will say. How about responding to Tim's provocation and give us your strategic view of what the NHS might do?
Laura Meach, I want to come back to you, who asked the question.
It's all very well saying that your budgets are being protected. However, NHS Tayside, as you said, Jenny, is £27 million in deficit this year.
Do you want to see taxes go up?
I don't particularly want to see taxes go up, but something has to be done.
Absolutely. Is it not also really important to point out that the World Health Organisations actually came out and said that the UK no longer has an NHS, that by their definition it's been abolished?